The first infant was long in coming, so long that I and even the midwife grew anxious. I became too tired to sit in the birthing chair. After a day and half a night, Victoire arrived. She was the smallest infant I had ever seen, too weak to let go a proper wail. Her birth brought me no respite. Jeanne refused to appear. Hours of agony passed until night became day again, and morning led to afternoon. The child's body was so stubbornly situated that she would not pass. The decision was made to break her legs so that she could be pulled out without killing me. There followed the midwife's hand inside me and the dreadful muffled snap of tiny bones. I cried out at the sound, not at the pain. When Jeanne emerged dead, I would not look at her. Her sickly twin lived 3 weeks. On the day Victoire too succumbed, a cold, prickling conviction settled over me. After all these years, Ruggieri's spell was failing. My husband and surviving children were in mortal danger. There was, as well, the quatrain in the great tome written by the prophet. The quatrain, I feared, predicted my darling Henri's fate. I am dogged in the pursuit of answers, and I would not rest until I had learned the truth from the lips of the famed seer himself. A knock came at the door, and the guard's low voice, both of which drew me back to the present. At my reply, the door swung open, and the guard and his limping charge entered. The former's expression grew quizzical at finding me entirely alone, without my ladies to attend me. I had busied Diane elsewhere, and had dismissed even Madame Gondi. My conversation with my visitor was to be strictly private. Madame la Reine. The seer's accent betrayed his southern origins. He had a soft moon of a face and the gentlest of eyes. Your Majesty, I am honored and humbled that you would receive me, he said. My greatest desire is to be of service to you and to His Majesty in whatever manner most pleases you. Ask for my life, and it is yours. His voice shook, and the hand that gripped the cap trembled. If there is any question of impropriety, of heresy, I can only say that I am a good Catholic who has endeavored all my life to serve God. At his bidding I wrote down the visions. They are sent by him alone, and not some unclean spirit. I had heard that he had often been accused of consorting with devils, and had moved from village to village over the past several years to avoid arrest. Frail, vulnerable, he regarded me with hesitation. He had read my letter, yet he had no doubt heard of my husband the king's hatred for the occult and for Protestants. Perhaps he feared that he was walking into an inquisitional trap. I hurried to put him at ease. I have no doubt of that, Monsieur de Nostradamus, I said warmly, smiling, and extended my hand. That is why I have asked for your help. Thank you for traveling such a distance in your discomfort to see us. We are deeply grateful. His body shuddered as fear unclenched it. He tottered forward and kissed my hand. His hair fell soft against my knuckles. His breath smelled of garlic. I looked up at the guard. That will be all, I said, and when he lifted a brow, why would I be so eager to forsake propriety by dismissing him? I subtly hardened my gaze until he nodded, bowed, and departed. I was alone with the unlikely prophet. Monsieur de Nostradamus straightened and stepped back. As he did, his gaze fell upon the window and the scene beyond. His nervousness vanished, replaced by a calm intensity. Ah, he said, as if to himself. The children. I turned to see Edouard running after Margot and little Navarre on the grassy swath of courtyard, altogether ignoring the cries of the governess to slow down. His Highness Prince Edouard, I said by way of explanation, likes to chase his little sister. At 5, Edouard was already unusually tall for his age.
The two younger ones, the little boy and girl, they appear to be twins, but I know that is not the case.
They are my daughter Margot and her cousin, Henri of Navarre. Little Henri, we call him, or sometimes Navarre, so as not to confuse him with the king.
The resemblance is remarkable, he murmured.
They are both 3 years old, monsieur. Margot was born on the 13th of May, Navarre on the 13th of December.
Tied by fate, he said thoughtlessly, then glanced back at me.
His eyes were too large for his face, like mine, but a clear light grey. They possessed a child's openness, and beneath their scrutiny I felt uncharacteristic discomfort.
I had a son, he said wistfully, and a daughter.
I opened my mouth to offer sympathy and say I had already heard of this. The most talented physician in all France, he had earned fame by saving many sick with plague, only to watch helplessly as his children and wife died of it. But I had no chance to speak, for he continued,
There is no greater tragedy than the death of a child. I pray that God will ease your grief and the king's.
Thank you, Monsieur de Nostradamus. I changed the subject quickly, for his sympathy was so genuine I feared I might cry if he said more. Please. I gestured at the chair set across from mine, and the footstool which had been placed there expressly for him. You have suffered enough on my behalf already. Sit down, and I will tell you when the children were born.
You are too gracious, Your Majesty.
He eased himself into the chair and settled his affected foot onto the little stool with a faint groan. He propped the cane next to him so that it remained within reach. Do you require paper and pen, monsieur? He tapped his brow with a finger.
No, I shall remember. Let us start with the eldest, then. The Dauphin, born the 19th of January in the year 1544. To cast a proper chart, I need
the hour and place, I interrupted. Having a talent for calculation, I had already taught myself to cast charts, though I did not entirely trust my own interpretations, and I all too often hoped they were wrong. No mother could ever forget such a thing, of course. François was born at the chateau at Fontainebleau a few minutes after 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We did not speak of the girls, Elisabeth and Margot. Under Salic law, a woman could not ascend the throne of France. For now it was time to focus on the heirs, on Charles Maximilien, born the 27th of June at Saint-Germain-en-Laye in the year 1550, and on my darling Edouard Alexandre. He was born the year after Charles, on the 19th of September, 20 minutes past midnight.
Thank you, Madame la Reine, Nostradamus said when I had finished. I will give you my full report within 2 days. I have already done some preparations, since the dates of the boys' births are widely known.
He did not move to rise, as would be expected. He sat gazing on me with those clear, calm eyes, and in the silence that followed I found my courage and my voice. I have evil dreams, I said. He seemed not at all surprised by this strange outburst.
May I speak candidly, madame? He asked politely.
Before I could answer, he continued,
You have astrologers. I am not the first to chart the children's nativities. I will construct them, surely. But you did not call me here to do only that.
No, I admitted. I have read your book of prophecy. I cleared my throat and recited the 35th quatrain, the one that had brought me to my knees when I first read it. The young lion will overcome the old. In a field of combat, in a single fight. He will pierce his eyes in a golden cage, 2 wounds in one. He then dies a cruel death.
I write down what I must. Monsieur de Nostradamus' gaze had grown guarded. I do not presume to understand its meaning."
"But I do." I leaned forward, no longer able to hide my agitation. "My husband, the king, he is the lion, the older one. I dreamt," I faltered, unwilling to put into words the horrifying vision in my head.
"Madame," he said gently, "you and I understand each other well, I think. Better than the rest of the world understands us. You and I see things others do not. Too much for our own comfort."
"I don't want to see any more," I said.